I spoke to a person in TRM, which is a blockchain surveillance company, Chainalysis' biggest competitor. And he told me on the record that illicit transactions run for about 0.6% of all transactions in crypto. So, and he said to me, that's one, and he works widely with governments around the world and authorities. So, like, this is you're skewing the narrative here because you're just saying how much money is getting used for illicit transactions, but you're not saying what percentage of that total is. I'm not saying that this isn't a problem, but just why not lay out the whole story? And buenas tardes. Welcome back for part 2 of episode 3 of Chainspotting. So in the first half, we checked out the idea, the game theoretic sides of things behind nation state adoption. And now we're going to dive into FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. Another piece from The Atlantic. The Atlantic is going strong against crypto. It's going strong against Bitcoin. It's going strong against anything that doesn't align with their progressive values, which, mind you, I am progressive, but clearly crypto continues to be too progressive for those progressives. So let's dive right in. And as expected, it comes with a nice, lofty, and interesting title, something that immediately caught my eye: The Great Crypto Crash. Trump will usher in a speculative frenzy, by Annie Lowrey at The Atlantic. The countdown clock on the next catastrophic crash has already started, Dennis Kelleher, the president of the nonprofit Better Markets, told me. In the past few weeks, I have heard that sentiment or similar from economists, traders, Hill staffers, and government officials. The incoming Trump administration has promised to pass crypto-friendly regulations and is likely to loosen strictures on Wall Street institutions as well. This will bring an unheralded era of American prosperity, it argues, maintaining the country's position as the head of the global capital markets and the heart of the global investment ecosystem. My vision is for an America that dominates the future, Donald Trump told a Bitcoin conference in July. I was there. I'm laying out my plan to ensure that the United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world. Lofty title, exciting. I could just feel all the people quivering around me at that conference as Trump sang sweet platitudes to everybody sitting there. Financial experts expect something different. Pause there. Who is the financial expert? Why are they a financial expert? And like, this is the classic thing. Traditional economists. These guys are financial experts. I don't know. Bitcoin is a fundamental disruption of mental models, of financial models, of game theoretics, of cryptography, money in general. So financial experts, those people that bury their head in the sand and that aren't even willing to entertain the fact that Bitcoin might propose or might be a tool. I'm not saying it fixes everything, like all fucking maxis say that Bitcoin fixes this, Bitcoin fixes this, Bitcoin fixes everything. No, it doesn't. But it can be a tool. Anyways, before I get too flustered, first, a big boom, maybe, with the price of Bitcoin, Ether, and other cryptocurrencies climbing, financial firms raking in the profits, and American investors awash in newfound wealth. Second, a big bust, maybe, with firms collapsing, the government being called in to steady the markets, and plenty of Americans suffering from foreclosures and bankruptcy. Does that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like what happened in the 2008-2009 crisis? Did anybody go to jail over that? Did the government step in and save all the big bankers, and then nothing happened and everything continued onwards and Bitcoin appeared to create an alternative system? Yeah, I think so. Having written about Bitcoin for more than a decade and having covered the last financial crisis and its long hangover, I have some sense of what might cause that boom and bust. Crypto assets tend to be exceedingly volatile, much more so than real estate, commodities, stocks, and bonds. Egged on by Washington, more Americans will invest in crypto. But there's an interesting thing. They could be egged on because of the lack of trust in financial institutions after they failed to do what they should have done in the 2008 and 2009 crisis, and just the general antics of just Washington, D.C. politicians. Just an idea. Prices will go up as cash floods in. Individuals and institutions will get wiped out when prices drop, as they inevitably will. There's a really funny meme or video of a guy back in the day going, this is when Bitcoin rises, and then it crashed, and then it went back up again, and then it crashed, and then when it went back up at that, and then he goes at the end of the day, quite ironically, the moral of the story, never buy Bitcoin because it will crash. But as he shows you in the video, it constantly goes up as well.
This one time, Bitcoin went from 6 cents all the way to 36 cents, and then it crashed down to 21 cents. And then another time, Bitcoin went all the way to $1,100, and then it crashed all the way to $239. So the moral of the story is, don't buy Bitcoin, because you know it's going to crash again.
The experts I spoke with did not counter that narrative. It is a narrative, though. But if that's all that happens, they told me, the United States and the world should count themselves lucky. The danger is not just that crypto-friendly regulation will expose millions of Americans to scams and volatility, because that already exists in the traditional system. The danger is that it will lead to an increase in leverage across the whole of the financial system, as if that doesn't exist already. It will foster opacity, making it harder for investors to determine the riskiness of and assign prices to financial products. Already happens, and it will do so at the same time as the Trump administration cuts regulations and regulators. Something that I said in a previous episode that Andreas Antonopoulos obviously much more eloquently than me explained is that one of the great features of Bitcoin is that even if it is a bubble, it's a bubble that everybody can participate in. The traditional financial sector is open only to traditional investors, mostly in the US, mostly with high restriction and high regulations and accreditations, or whatever you want to call it, which exist for a reason, but they also exist to gatekeep. And so they get to play, these big institutions and big investors get to play as much as they want. Me, retail investor, either can't have access or doesn't know how to participate, or is at the behest of these massive firms. And so what is it? I don't get to enjoy the benefit of the upside, but I do have to suffer the consequences of the downside, which is what happened in 2008 and 2009. At least in Bitcoin, I can participate. That's a fundamental difference. And something that is interesting that is getting left out. Crypto will become more widespread, and the conventional financial markets will come to look more like the crypto markets, wilder, less transparent, and more unpredictable, with trillion-dollar consequences extending years into the future. I have this worry that the next 3 or 4 years will look pretty good. Eswar Prasad, an economist at Cornell and a former International Monetary Fund official, told me. It's what comes after, when we have to pick up the pieces from all the speculative frenzies that are going to be generated because of this administration's actions. 3 to 4 years of looking pretty good doesn't immediately mean that the next after that it will be a disaster. Besides, 3 to 4 years pretty good is much better than it's pretty good. For years, Washington has waged a war on crypto and Bitcoin like nobody's ever seen, Trump told crypto entrepreneurs this summer. They target your banks. They choke off your financial services. They block ordinary Americans from transferring money to your exchanges. They slander you as criminals, he added. That happened to me too, because I said the election was rigged. Lol. Trump. Trump is not wrong that crypto exists in its own parallel financial universe. Many crypto companies cannot or choose not to comply with American financial regulations, making it hard for kitchen table investors to use their services, much like it's difficult for kitchen table investors to use just already traditional instruments. The world's biggest crypto exchange, Binance, declines even to name which jurisdiction it is based in. It directs American customers to a smallish US offshoot. Companies such as Morgan Stanley and Wells Fargo tend to offer few, if any, crypto products and tend to make minimal, if any, investments in crypto and crypto related businesses. It's not so much that banks haven't wanted to get in on the fun, it's that regulations have prevented them from doing so, and regulators have warned them not to. This situation has throttled the amount of money flowing into crypto, but the approach has been a wise one. It has prevented firm failures and crazy price swings from destabilizing the traditional financial system. Crypto lost 2 trillion of its 3 trillion in market capitalization in 2022, Kelleher noted. If you had that big of a financial crash with any other asset, there would have been contagion, but there wasn't, because you have a parallel systems with almost no interconnection. Yeah, I mean, look, we're gonna have to see. I just think that yes, there could be contagion, or yes, when it comes to crashes, there will be contagion. But again, focusing primarily on the risks, which is important and needs to be done, and completely ignoring the benefits of what this asset class means, what it offers, the benefits, how it's important, from its permissionless nature, from the possibility of giving average Joes and Janes the possibility of moving up across the financial ladder, just a way to save wealth, censorship resistant money, all that sort of stuff. You guys know the typical jives. Um, is is often ignored in these kind of hit pieces, which is fine because clearly she's pushing a specific narrative or she's focusing on the specific downsides. But it's unfair to do that. Or it's not unfair, it's just not right as a journalist to just only focus on one specific side of things. Especially because you're just speculating about the future. Except here she did say that they lost 2 trillion of 3 trillion in market cap. So that is the past, and that is a fact. Forthcoming regulation will knit the systems together. Granted, nobody knows exactly what laws Congress will pass and Trump will sign, but the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, or FIT 21, which passed the House before dying in the Senate last year, is a good guide. The law was the subject of intense lobbying by crypto advocates with billions on the line and cash to spend, including 170 million on the 2024 election. It amounts to an industry wish list, much like every other wish list from any other industry, that pharmaceuticals, the oil industry, telecom, all that sort of stuff. FIT 21 makes the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, rather than the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, the regulator of most crypto assets and firms, and requires that the CFTC collect far less information from companies on the structure and trading of crypto products than securities firms give the SEC. Beyond loose rules, financial experts anticipate loose enforcement. The CFTC predominantly oversees financial products used as hedges by businesses and traded among traders, not ones hawked to individual investors. It has roughly 1/5 the budget of the SEC and 1/7 of the staff. And in general, Washington is expected to loosen the strictures, preventing traditional banks from keeping crypto on their books and preventing crypto companies from accessing the country's infrastructure. According to Prasad, this regimen would be a dream for crypto because for now they've been in a nightmare. No, they haven't. I said this on a previous episode. Even though there's a part of me that believes in Operation Choke Point 2.0 and that there was a concerted effort from agencies to help out their banking friends, there is an argument for financial regulators to hone in on an industry that does have a lot of scammers, that does have a lot of fraud, that does allow for things that shouldn't happen to happen. Whether that happens more than in the traditional financial sector is not entirely what I believe, but it does happen, and it is something that should be taken into account. Trump and his family are personally invested in crypto, as they are in a number of different fucking industries. And the president-elect has floated the idea of establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve to preempt Chinese influence. In reality, this would mean deploying billions of dollars of taxpayer money to soak up speculative assets with no strategic benefit to the United States. Really, you actually think that there's no strategic benefit to the US to hold Bitcoin? Like none, not even like a 0.01%, like nothing. That's wild. How many Republicans will invest in crypto because Trump does? How many young people will pour money into Bitcoin because his son, Eric, says its price is zooming toward 1 million, or because the Secretary of the Commerce says it is the future? So this really fucking grills me, grinds my gears, because you're essentially thinking that people are stupid and that they're only going to do things because the Trumps say so. Yes, that will happen. But why do you demean people thinking that just because Trump and his family or the Secretary of Commerce is saying A, B, or C? Like, I can think for myself. I can make up my own mind. Why is Trump saying that? He might have his own prerogative. But, like, essentially, you've got this pompous position of saying these people are too stupid to determine whether crypto is a good asset to invest in on their own. So they're just going to follow blindly what Trump and his son says, even if that does happen in the MAGA community a lot, and beyond the MAGA community. I'm sure the progressives who read this and follow this blindly because they're like, oh, because Trump likes it, I'm definitely not going to like it. Really? This happens very often. And as a progressive, I'm saying this happens a lot more in progressives, where they take this position of high moral superiority and they define what's right and what's wrong for other people. This happened in Chile during the writing of the new constitution, where the left wing came out and said that this is like the intellectual left wing came out and said, this is what needs to happen. You need to be doing this. And if you don't, you're stupid. It's like, well, let me make up my own mind. Maybe I'm not entirely sure of the ideas that you're pushing forward, of how you want to create this new nation state for the country. But yeah, this is common. And this really, really annoys me. As you can see, nothing being considered by Congress or the White House will reduce the inherent risks. Crypto investors will remain vulnerable to hacking, ransomware, and theft. The research group Chainalysis tallied 24.2 billion in illicit transactions in 2023 alone. I spoke to a person in TRM, which is a blockchain surveillance company, Chainalysis' biggest competitor, and he told me on the record that illicit transactions run for about 0.6% of all transactions in crypto. So, and he said to me, that's one, and he works widely with governments around the world and authorities. So, like, this is, you're skewing the narrative here, because you're just saying how much money is getting used for illicit transactions, but you're not saying what percentage of that total is. I'm not saying that this isn't a problem, but just why not lay out the whole story? And if the US government invests in crypto, the incentive for countries such as Iran and spooky North Korea to interfere in the markets would go up exponentially. Imagine China engaging in a 51% attack on the Bitcoin blockchain, taking it over and controlling each and every transaction. The situation is a security nightmare. Just want to point out that it's very hard to have a 51% attack on the Bitcoin blockchain at the moment. Americans will be exposed to more prosaic scams and ripoffs too. The SEC has brought enforcement actions against dozens of Ponzi schemers, charlatans, and cheats, encompassing both the $32 billion sham exchange FTX and ticky-tacky coin firms. I like that, ticky-tacky. Nobody expects the CFTC to have the muscle to do the same, and Fit21 leaves loopholes open for all kinds of scuzzy profiteering. A crypto firm might be able to run an exchange, buy and sell assets on its own behalf, and execute orders for clients legally at the same time, despite the conflict of interest. Simple volatility is the biggest risk for retail investors. Crypto coins, tokens, and currencies are purely speculative, Prasad emphasized in his subjective opinion. The only thing anchoring the value is investor and sentiment. At least gold has industrial uses. Or if you're betting on the price of tulip bulbs, at least you might end up with a flower. That's a funny quip. For those of you that are listening, it's been common over the years for financial experts to say that Bitcoin is a bubble, just like tulips. And tulips in Holland in the 1600s, they were notorious because the price went up and then it all exploded and then it fell. What people fail to remind the general people or the general population, these quote unquote financial experts, is that the biggest flower industry in the world right now is in Holland, where that tulip mania and that bubble burst. I don't know exactly what percentage of their GDP it is, but it's massive. So keep that in mind when you're using these silly analogies. A report released last month by the Office of Financial Research, a government think tank, makes clear just how dangerous this could be. Some low-income households are using crypto gains to take out new mortgages. When crypto prices go down, those families' homes are going to be at risk. Many individual investors do not seem to understand these perils. Again, how do you know? Maybe they're okay taking these risks. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation has had to warn the public that it does not protect crypto assets. The Financial Stability Oversight Council has raised the concerns that people do not realize that crypto firms are not subject to the same oversight as banks. But if Trump is invested, how bad could it be? The same oversight as banks. Are these the same banks that introduced insane amounts of leverage and greed during the 2008, 2009 crisis and that have crashed the entire market? And then the government, Obama and Trump and all these guys that came afterwards, and Biden, didn't prosecute them, but just put their same friends in those positions of powers, and banks continue to operate as they always heard. Same ones. Yeah. Regulators and economists are not worried primarily about the damage that this new era will do to individual households. However, they are worried about chaos in the crypto markets, disrupting the traditional financial system, leading to a collapse in lending and the need for the government to step in, as it did in 2008. Where Wall Street once saw fool's gold, it now sees a gold mine. Ray Dalio of Bridgewater called crypto a bubble a decade, and now he thinks it's one hell of an invention. Larry Fink of BlackRock previously referred to Bitcoin as an index of money laundering. Today, he sees it as a legitimate financial instrument, one his firm has already begun offering to clients, if indirectly. She makes a couple interesting points, because the sign of intelligence is being able to change your mind about something. And so she's posing this as something bad, that these Wall Street investors have changed their mind about a specific asset. And so they're saying, nah, it's just because of the money. Maybe they realize the inherent benefits. I'm not coming out here to defend Larry Fink and Ray Dalio and these multi-billionaires, that they're doing things out of the greater good and all this kind of stuff. I'm just saying maybe they changed their minds along the way and they realize that there is some value to this. But no, of course not. All they want is money, money, money. Yes, all they want is money, money, money. But maybe they realize along the way that they were making a mistake from it, same as millions have done before and same as you clearly haven't done here. What could go wrong? Nothing, provided that Wall Street firms are properly accounting for the risk of these risky assets. Everything if they are not. Even the sturdiest seeming instruments are dangerous. Stablecoins, for example, are crypto assets pegged to the dollar. One stablecoin is worth $1, making them useful as a medium of exchange, unlike Bitcoin and Ether. Stablecoin companies generally maintain their peg by holding $1 worth of super safe assets, such as cash and treasury bills, for every stablecoin issued. Supposedly. In the spring of 2022, the widely used stablecoin Terra USD collapsed, its price falling to just 23 cents. The company had been using an algorithm to keep Terra USD's price moored. All it took was enough money pulling their money out for the stablecoin to break the buck. Tether, the world's most traded crypto asset, claims to be fully backed by safe deposits. The U.S. government found that it was not as of 2021. Moreover, the Treasury Department is contemplating sanctioning the company behind Tether for its role as a cash funnel for the North Korean nuclear weapons program, Mexican drug cartels, Russian arms companies, Middle Eastern terrorist groups, and Chinese manufacturers of chemicals used to make fentanyl, the Wall Street Journal has reported. To suggest that Tether is somehow involved in aiding criminal actors and sidestepping sanctions is outrageous, the company responded. I'd like to point out that There was wide backlash to this Wall Street Journal article. I think that some US senators and some House of Representatives pushed back about the veracity of their claims. Blockchain analytics companies came back out pushing back against these claims. So this is bullshit reporting because, like, you're leaving out completely the counter arguments to this argument. Now, Terra USD did collapse. Yes. Was it a Ponzi scheme? Yes. Does this happen a lot in the crypto industry? Yes. But there's a bunch of other stable coins that do serve their purpose. I'd like to remind people in financially privileged countries like the US that in places like South America, it's not easy to access dollars or to access stable currencies. And stable coins present an alternative. They present an option. That's why they're very popular around the world, because your financial system doesn't allow us to easily access dollars. So yeah, were Tether and other big stablecoins to falter, financial chaos would instantly spread beyond the crypto markets. Yes, I do think that Tether falling, because it is like one of the core crypto assets to the financial market, were to fail for any reason, that would be dismal. Not sure how that would play out, but that would be pretty bad. And there are a lot of Tether deniers out there that do say that's coming. It is a pretty big risk, and it's important to keep in mind. Do you see? It's possible to counter argument what you believe in when you're analyzing things. Just saying. Worried investors would dump the stablecoin, instigating a self-fulfilling panic run, in the words of 3 academics who modeled this eventuality. Don't get me started on academics. I need Andrew Bailey and Troy Cross and the Bitcoin resistance people to jump in here on academics. The stablecoin issuer would dump treasury bills and other safe assets to provide redemptions. The falling price of safe assets would affect thousands of non-crypto firms. The economists put the risk of a run on Tether at 2.5% as of late 2021. Not so stable. Has it remained stable? Yes, it has. Other catastrophes are easy to imagine: bank failures, exchange collapses, giant Ponzi schemes faltering. Still, the biggest risk with crypto has little to do with crypto at all. If Congress passes FIT 21 or a similar bill, it would invent a novel asset class called digital commodities. In essence, any financial asset managed on a decentralized blockchain. Digital commodities would be exempted from SEC oversight, as would decentralized finance firms. In the FIT 21 bill, any firm or person can self-certify a financial product as a digital commodity, and the SEC would only have 60 days to object. This is a big loophole, big enough to fit an investment bank through. Already, Wall Street is talking up tokenization, meaning assets on a programmable digital ledger. The putative justification is capital efficiency. Tokenization could make it easier to move money around. Another justification is regulatory arbitrage. Investments on a blockchain would move out of the SEC's purview and likely be subject to fewer disclosures, reporting, accounting, tax, consumer protection, anti-money laundering, and capital requirements. Risk would build up in the system. The government would have newer ways to rein firms in. Crypto regulation could end up undermining the broad $100 trillion markets. Gary Gensler, the soon-to-be former head of the SEC and crypto's industry's enemy numero uno, has argued. It would encourage non-compliant entities to choose what regulatory regimes they wish to be subject to. We have seen this movie before not long ago. In 2000, shortly before leaving office, Bill Clinton signed the Commodities Futures Modernization Act. The law put strictures on derivatives traded on an exchange, but left over-the-counter derivatives unregulated. So Wall Street ginned up trillions of dollars of financial products, many backed by the income streams from home loans, and traded them over the counter. It packaged some prime loans with prime loans, obscuring a given financial instrument's real risk. Then consumers strained under rising interest rates, crummy wage growth, and climbing unemployment. The mortgage default rate went up. Home prices fell, first in the Sun Belt and then nationwide. Investors panicked. Nobody even knew what was in all of those credit default swaps and mortgage-backed securities. Nobody was sure what anything was worth. uncertainty, opacity, leverage, and mispricing spurred the global financial crisis that caused the Great Recession. Whew, that was a mouthful. The crypto market today is primed to become the derivatives market of the future. Were Congress and the Trump administration to do nothing to leave the SEC as crypto's primary regulator to require crypto companies to play by the existing rules, the chaos would remain walled off. There's no sensible justification for digital assets to be treated differently than securities anyway. But the simple test the government has used for a century, nearly all crypto assets are securities. But Washington is creating loopholes, not laws, for everything, not just for crypto. As the crypto boosters like to say, hold on for dear life. A lot of bankers, they're dancing in the street, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan said at a conference in Peru last week. Maybe they should. The bankers are never the ones left holding the bag. Bada bing, and we're done with another FUD piece from another wonderful author at The Atlantic. I would like to point out that I do like reading Annie Lowrey's stories, or Annie Lowrey stories. She's got one, The Bro Economy, that's really interesting. She's got a couple good articles. This one, I found it funny that you would end on Jamie Dimon, like one of the most sinister men in the world. The amount of money laundering that has already come out, and a lot of the illicit transactions that his company allows to happen would make him absurd as any sort of financial expert of any sort of moral high ground. Now, I understand that you're saying that a lot of bankers, they're dancing in the street, and there's like a sarcastic twist to it. But really, to use Jamie Dimon to close out this story is, well, goes along with the rest of the story. But yeah, that's another fun piece. That's another Chainspotting episode. What did you think? Do you agree? Do you think that Trump is going to loosen regulations and is going to create a disaster in capital markets by the hand of crypto? It might well do. But to ignore the benefits of something like crypto, especially for a generation like mine, millennials, is short-sighted, narrow-sighted, is deliberate fuckery, whatever you want to call it. But we're done. What did you think? Did you enjoy the episode? Did you like what the conversation was about? Do you agree or disagree with anything I said? Remember, subscribe, like, comment. That would be wonderful. By the way, chainspottingpod.com. I publish alongside this podcast a weekly newsletter with more digestible stuff, with more. I share in a few thoughts. I share in a few tweets that are accompanying this. I share what books I'm reading and what's been interesting over the past week, what crypto events are happening. So definitely head there and check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to choose your news, and I'll read you later.